Devils on the Doorstep is a dark war comedy set during the Second Sino-Japanese War. It was banned in China, but enjoyed a degree of international success as it won the Grand Prix position at the Cannes Film Festival. Now the plot basically follows Ma-de-san and his fellow villagers in Rack Armor Terrace as they deal with Japanese occupation. Their lives become more complicated as they become the unwilling captors of two men from the Japanese army. Ma is mostly burdened with caring for the prisoners and treats them very well, except for that one part where he tries to have them executed. Aside from that, the prisoners become very appreciative of how Ma has cared for them. Eventually, the prisoners convince the villagers to release them to the Japanese garrison with the promise that the villagers' kindness will be rewarded. The Japanese do in fact reward the villagers and sponsor a huge feast in the village that is attended by the soldiers and villagers alike. Unfortunately, the feast goes downhill and the villagers end up slaughtered and their homes burned. Ma-de-san escapes though, and later, when Chinese nationalist forces retake the area, he slaughters Japanese POWs as a form of revenge. This in turn results in his execution. Now, as said before, the film was banned in China. The reported reason why is because the film portrays the Japanese and Chinese to be very close, almost like family, and the Chinese just don't hate the Japanese enough. Essentially, the film's anti-Japanese sentiments were not strong enough. This is despite the villagers' several attempts to kill their prisoners and the fact that the Japanese are shown barbarically destroying the village after already receiving news that the war was over and conflict was to end. So, an argument that the film's anti-Japanese sentiments are weak is possible, but it's not very good grounds to ban the film entirely. However, an unstated reason for its ban could be the fact that the movie undermines the international legitimacy of China by challenging its triumph over Japan and questioning its narrative as a beneficent victor. Part of Chinese international legitimacy stresses the fact that China beat Japan in the Second World War, despite Japan technically surrendering to America. The film highlights this technicality. When the Chinese commander enters the POW camp, he does so in an American jeep, while flanked by two American GI. Their jeep is stopped by a Japanese POW who tries to sell things to the commander, despite the commander's insistence that the POW move so they can continue. It isn't until the GI yell at the POW that he gets out of the way. Metaphorically, this can be seen as China being unable to deal with Japan, and Japan only yielding to American intervention. It's also interesting to note that the commander's leg is injured, reinforcing this idea that the Americans are propping him up. There's also the fact that Ma rampages through the POW camp, killing several prisoners, which directly challenges the beneficent victor narrative that suggests China resisted taking revenge on Japan and instead acted magnanimously towards Japan. In the end, Devils on the Doorstep provides an interesting commentary on the Second Sino-Japanese War that challenges the narratives constructed by China.